Here we are in part 2 of ways to represent technology in research. And I was talking about simpler methods than a tech tree. Here's one that's simpler than the first. I represent technology with event cards. This is a game from ancient times, so a technology would be something like pottery, or something like cavalry or chariots, or the trireme, for example. When a player plays an event card for a technology, only he gains the benefit for the rest of the round, and the game has like 4 rounds altogether, and thereafter everyone gains the benefit. In other words, once one nation starts using the technology, gradually others are able to do so as well. Some technologies cannot be played until others have been played. A player also gains resources for playing the technology in order to discourage them from sitting on a tech card and not playing it as a strategy. Then we have really simple tech. In my prototype Xenophobia, which is a 4X card game of all things, players can draw a technology card rather than an exploration card or a fleets card. Each tech changes the rules in the player's favor. There's a maximum number of techs that you can have, which depends on the number of players. Now, everyone knows what the technology is, because it's face up, and there's no stealing or copying of technologies. Each player plays a different species of bug-eyed monster, and that's my excuse. Although the real reason is, with only 110 cards, I just didn't have enough cards to represent anything further. How about another method of development? Technologies appear via independent inventors, and players bid for them. Now, this may be more suitable for games without outright warfare, so that the government enforces exclusive ownership. So it could be a gangster game or a railroad game, from Sid Meier's Railroad Tycoon, for example. Or there could be an advanced alien race, such as Larry Niven's puppeteers, who sell tech to other species. How about stealing or copying technology? Well, ask yourself what really happens when one side reveals the use of a technology to the other side, as in World War II or World War I. The other side finds it much easier to develop, even if they can't get hold of the examples. Now, there are exceptions. For example, English longbows were never really something that other nations could adopt, although they might have a few people who could do it. And that related to essentially how Englishmen grew up. And when that changed, the English longbows more or less went away. Now, stealing the plans for a tech is less common, although you see it a lot in movies perhaps. But items recovered from the battlefield can help the other side develop a tech. Where alien species are concerned, some technologies may not be usable or understandable by another race, period. In games, you don't see much in the way of stealing or copying technology. Though I do recall a video game with spies and sabotage, and sometimes the spies could steal the technology. And there was a species that was especially good at copying enemy technology. Perhaps it's more practical in video games because the computer is an ace status tracker compared with what you can do in a tabletop game. In a computer you can have lots of different possibilities, spies, stealing techs, copying techs, and so on, that are just too complicated to keep track of in a tabletop game, because in a tabletop game the whole technology business is generally subsidiary, intermediate to the main actions of the game. What about character-driven technology? In one game I have an event card that gives a player a free research advancement thanks to a brilliant technologist. Some genius. You can go farther and have inventor or scientist characters if your game is a character or avatar-driven game. So rather than spend money on research, you'd spend money on these characters who would then be with you indefinitely rather than as one-shots. The normal technology you spend money and it's a one-shot, but here you'd have these guys indefinitely. Now, as part of this, these individuals may not research what you want them to research, or you may choose a category, but they may come up with something else because they're brilliant individuals and they can't be focused the way we can focus large numbers of people and large amounts of money on research for ways of going to the moon, for example, or research on creating nuclear weapons. Now, I'm only going to talk briefly about how technologies affect play because the obvious thing would be that it changes the rules for the player who developed the technology. But it could also represent a point, victory points, or the technology could be more subtle in its effect than affecting something that happens on the battlefield. It depends on the game and on what you're trying to show. You have some major choices if you're going to try to put technology into a war game. One major design choice is whether chance plays a part, as in the real world, or not. And that will probably match the rest of your game, however your game works. Another is how much progression is involved. Do you need to develop one tech before you can develop another, or not? Always keep in mind, how are the players going to track technology? Once again, it's more practical in a video game. Now, when I started this screencast, I had no idea how much would come up. It's a big topic, but it is irrelevant to most war games. But when it is relevant, it's very relevant.